Welcome to Manifested Publishers.
Hello learners, it's a pleasure to have you once again at the Manifested e-learning platform. The subject is geography and we are studying statistical methods. In this session, learners, we continue from where we stopped. We have been studying the methods that can be used to collect data. We had highlighted 7 methods. Number 1, use of questionnaires. Number 2, interviews. Number 3, observation. Number 4, sampling. Number 5, taking measurements. Number 6, experimentation. And lastly, extracting data from secondary sources. So far, we have studied 2 methods. That is the questionnaires and interviews. Today, we want to study observation as a method that a researcher can use to collect data. Learners, welcome to our today's lesson. The subtopic is observation. Observation. From the word observe. To do what? To observe. Observing is a method that a researcher can use to collect data. And this method involves direct visual observation of geographical phenomena. This method, I've said, involves direct visual observation of geographical phenomena. To observe, to see, visual, okay? Other than just sending questionnaires or asking people questions or interviewing respondents. A researcher can choose to use his own eyes to observe, visual observation of geographical phenomena. And this method is most useful where the phenomena under research is not able to communicate verbally. Where the researcher, the kind of the information or the data that the researcher is looking for may not be communicated verbally by respondents, learners. That is a time when the researcher will resort to this method of direct visual observation, where the data cannot be communicated properly through words. Then the researcher will do what? Will have to go and use his or her eyes. Observe. Visual means the use of eyes instead of just relying on people's information. Because when you make a call, for example, in an interview, when you make a call, learners, the researcher will be listening using the ears. There are some things that are better seen than heard. Better understood when seen than when they are heard. So there are some geographical phenomena which learners may not be able to communicate verbally. For example, a field study on rocks. A field study on rocks. When you want to study on, say, rocks, it may be better for you to visit the site and record what you can see than relying on information from someone else. Or a field study on the landscape of soils, or vegetation, or wildlife. That's why sometimes in school we organize trips for you to go and observe wildlife, go and observe the ocean, go and observe the lake, go and observe the animals, the wildlife, go and observe different types of vegetation, learners, so that you can observe and get data and put it down as you are seeing it firsthand. All right? So before observing, learners, the researcher should do what? Should survey the area and find location where he can watch without obstruction. Because we are talking of visual. So you are supposed, first of all, before you can observe geographical phenomena, you need to first of all survey the area and ensure that the location which you are going to stand as you observe, there is no obstruction from the larger features. Then as you are observing, learners, as you are observing, you do what? You take notes. Take notes as you observe. And that's why in English, learners, we teach you how to take notes. Taking notes. Learners, take notes. So notes on observation made should be written immediately. Should be written immediately. As you are observing, you need to write immediately so that you do not forget. And I hope you are also taking notes, learners, as I'm speaking. You should also be taking notes, what I'm saying. Don't just sit down there and look at me. No, you also need to listen and write notes. Why? So that you do not forget what I've said. The same thing as you are observing phenomena, the same way as you are observing geographical phenomena. When you go onto a geographical trip, learners, you need to do what? To write down what you are seeing to avoid forgetting the details. Another point to note, learners, I want you to note is that observation may be done individually or it can be done in groups. Observation, learners, is a method of data collection that involves direct visual observation of geographical phenomena. I gave examples of geographical phenomena like the wildlife, like the rocks, vegetation, and so on. So let us now move to give the advantages of observation. Write down advantages of observation. Advantages of observation. Number one, the first advantage is that this method provides first-hand. This method provides first-hand. This method provides first-hand data. First-hand data, since the researcher. This method provides first-hand data since the researcher records what he or she sees, since the researcher records what he or she sees, is first hand. It's not secondary, no, first hand. Number two, learners, is that it provides reliable data. This method provides reliable data because as the researcher is looking for information, he knows exactly what he's looking for. He knows what he needs from this process of observing. So the information may be reliable because he will go for what he actually requires in his or her study. So the method becomes very reliable as compared to when you are relying on other people to provide the information. Then we can also say it saves time. Number three, it saves time. Time saving. It saves time because one does not have to look for data elsewhere, since one does not need to look for data elsewhere. Since one does not need to look for data, elsewhere, but records exactly what is seen. Exactly what is seen. The researcher does not need to go looking for data in the libraries, in books, and all that. That saves time because you identify the phenomena you want to study. Then you, as you are observing, you take notes of what you actually are looking for. So that saves time as compared to, for example, preparing questionnaires. Drafting questionnaires require some level of expertise, learners, to do a proper questionnaire. Then mailing the questionnaires to respondents. It takes time for respondents to give their responses, then send back the questionnaires. Then it may also take time for the researcher to analyze the questionnaires. It may be easier, okay? It may save time for the researcher to just go and collect the data and put down what he's looking for by himself or by herself. So these are three methods of observation as a method of collecting data. So learners, on that note, we come to the end of our today's lesson, where we have studied observation as a method of collecting data. We've identified three advantages. Now I'm going to give you one revision question. One revision question. Give three advantages observation as a method of collecting geographical data. When answering the question, please close your notes, close the video, try and see if you can remember the advantages from your memory. Thank you for attending our today's lesson. In our next lesson, we are going to study disadvantages of observation.